So let's dive right into this puppy, and let's start with our drums. So you will notice that I've got a little bit of panning done here. That's left over from attempt 1. I am not going to undo that right now. We'll keep it as is. However, and I've got a couple of effects left here from earlier, but we'll talk about that as we get into it. I'm going to hit this quick link. I'm going to mute all these tracks. So we should only hear our drums. Okay, so, they sound like they're pretty well recorded to me. They sound good. I do hear a couple of things I want to change right off the bat, tone-wise. So I do want to have a listen to these kick drums a little bit. I find while it sounds very honest, it's we could just add a little bit of oomph to them. And I think tonally, it's not exactly what it sounds like when you're next to a kick drum. So we have 3 microphones here. There's a kick room, a kick in, and a kick beater. So if I solo these for a second and we listen. So clearly this is not exactly a drum kit that was all played in one go. I'm not hearing any, no snare, no cymbals, no anything. It's just a totally clean kick drum. So that's not a bad thing, like if we do want to do something with it as far as like extreme processing. But you've heard the song. I don't think any of it needs to be extremely processed. So I'd like to have a quick listen to this kick-in mic. And before we do this, I'm going to just turn on my bus processing so I get a little more volume for you. Again, this is left over from earlier. I will go over it. What I did, there's virtually nothing on there. So this sounds good to me. It's not a bad sound. The only thing that I don't like about this is that I'd like it to be a little rounder. It's a little mid-range. It's a little sort of And so we're going to try to change that a little bit. So I'm using this Solid State Logic channel strip. So that frequency right there is what I didn't like. So if I just... that aspect of it, I don't like that. So if I pull out 7 dB of that, automatically that sounds better. Now let's add just a little bit of attack. Okay, so I kind of like that. Okay, and now I'm going to try just a little bit of compression on it just to make it more consistent. And we'll jack up our fader a little tiny bit, and let's bypass this and see what we got. Now again, we're not doing EDM or death metal or hard rock or anything. So some of the little like resonance and stuff around the kick is not going to be a problem. If I did want to get rid of some of that stuff, I could try a couple of different things. I could gate it, so we can have a look at that real quick. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I like that. Again, for the genre, I feel like this feels a little more natural just to keep it as is. And who knows, we might go back to this at some point and undo it, but I think this kick drum sounds better than it did. And again, here's a bypass. Okay, so it's a lot more defined. It's got a bunch of low-mid gunk taken out of it. And that's the main thing. That's what I always kind of try to do with kick drums, especially, if this was a different genre and this were like a, like an EDM type kick drum or whatever, it'd probably sound much, much, much closer to what you want when you start. They always do. When you put a microphone inside of an acoustic drum shell, you don't get this perfect sound. So we need to get rid of some stuff. So let's check out this kick beater mic. And I don't really care too much about what this is supposed to be. I just want to make it sound as good as possible. So still there was like low mid-range and like an upper mid-range knock that I didn't like in this. I don't like that. That sounds pretty nasty to me. And I should let you know as well, if you're wondering if I'm just twisting stuff and then sweeping this around and going, oh, I don't like that. If you boost anything by 15 decibels and sweep around, you're going to find lots of stuff you don't like. I hear something when it's flat and I go, oh, I don't really like that. I kind of focus on that. And then I'm sweeping to find that frequency range that I didn't like. And I'm not thinking about any of this. Like I'm not going, oh, I think that's X number of hertz. I have a good idea around where it is, but I'm not really thinking like that. I'm just going by feel. So we got more of this 300 hertz thing. Let's pull some of that out. And let's widen these out, both of these out. Okay, so let's just check out how this contributes to the kick sound. This is our the kick in mic. Now we'll put in the kick beater. Right, so that adds body, it adds some more three-dimensional type thing. And then let's check out the kick room. Just checking my phase there to make sure that it's not better with the phase flipped. So there is a bit of a phase thing between these two mics, but I think I'm going to let them be. Yeah, I think that's it. We'll let the kick room be just as it is right now, and if we need to change it, we will. Okay, for our snare mic, just listening to this. This is our close snare mic. So this is brushes, of course. So there's the constant swoosh, which sometimes sounds a little bit, it can sound a little bit messy. So because it's so loud in comparison to the actual hits, one thing I'm not going to do with the snare drum is I'm not going to compress it, because that's going to bring that stuff up and it's going to start to sound really, really messy to me. So let's, I think the first thing I want to do is, it sounds a little thin to me. So I'd like to add some bottom end to this. Now, I think what I'd like to do is try this plugin. Now, these are usually used for bass and kick drums and stuff like that to add more lows and make things sound bigger and fatter. But I'm going to try adding this at 125 or 126 hertz. And we're going to add it to a snare drum. And this is not normally what you would use for these, but I've had some really great results in the past trying to warm stuff up and give it more bottom end and more body with these. It's a little nicer than trying to find something that's down there with an EQ and boost. So right away without doing anything, you can tell just when I bypass that it added some serious sort of pretty realistic bottom end right away. Just check it out, and then I'll increase the intensity a little bit. And we've got a snare room as well. I think what we'll do with our snare room is just sort of, we'll compress it a little bit just to get more room and more energy out of it. And that way we can always boost it up or, bring it back later or whatever. Yeah, so I think that's doing what I wanted to do. It's giving me more volume, and it's slightly just splatting the snare a little bit. You can tell that the snare drum itself is getting dunked a little bit, and I think that's going to do what I want for now. I'm just going to leave it alone. So it adds like just a cool ambience around the snare. I'll just let you hear both. So we'll go with that for the moment. Let's listen to our overheads. So again, clearly the snare is overdubbed. The overheads, there's no snare in the overheads. So again, this is kind of cool. And they sound like good overheads to me. I probably won't even end up touching these in any way, shape, or form. One of the things I did earlier was just pan them off a little tiny bit, so they're both at about 70%. I generally don't like to completely hard pan my overheads. I just don't necessarily think the drums themselves should be that loud, or at least just the overheads. And then the two toms, basically I just listen to the overheads to see what's panned where, and sort of just pan the toms around so that it sort of mirrors the image of what's going on in the overheads. So let's see where we are right now. Okay, and you know what? I think I'm going to leave that for right now, because that's, I'm not a lunatic when it comes to drums. I generally don't go too crazy with the whole processing thing, especially for a song like this. So let's just see what's going on up here with our percussion. So there's like snaps, and there's claps, and there's some other things in this. Obviously, there's not claps right now, but that changes. And so we'll come back to this probably, and we may sort of put a little Tabasco sauce on it, or whatever. But yeah, we'll just let it be for now.